I think that in terms of what that looks like today and the way we think about taste is looking like linear. It's looking like Stripe. It's looking like things that already exist. To me, that's not taste. If we want to really think about taste, I think we should lean into the things that we're not looking at.
I think a lot of people are saying designers should become founders. How do you think that is possible?
I think designers have such a unique skill set in that the way we problem solve, the way that we work through things, the way that we iterate, the way that we think. And I think that that's so invaluable. And now more than ever, it's become so easy to build things, right? Like you can vibe code your way through something. I mean, ideas are cheap. And so because it's easier to build things now, you can produce a lot of ideas. And I think that's really unique. Who's historically been building? It's been engineers. And I think that we're finally having a moment where people are recognizing the power and the excellence of design in product. And I think it's a good time to capitalize on that sort of like a YC perspective. Like I think they had like a call for startups. One of them was like design founders. And I'm like, we're really having our moment. Like this is so interesting. And so it's like narratively we're hot. From a product perspective, we're capable. And from a execution perspective, it's never been easier to move as fast as you can. And so I think if you can err on that velocity that is required to build things and build companies and be able to like learn fast, fail fast, and apply the magic that is you being a designer to that, I think really great things can happen more than ever before.
What are the top 3 things potential design founders should be aware of?
One is working with the least resource as possible and trying to get as far as you can. What is it that you can do on your own now, end to end? Start there and really try to like make that, get to the magic moment just on your own.
What is your advice to people working in companies where they don't feel like design is valued as much? I ask this question because you talk about showing impact.
Impact's going to be tough when people don't care. Before I was at Datadog, I worked at a startup where I was the sole designer and in a very, very technical environment where no one cared about design. But there were a few people that did, that had influence. And it was almost like you had to make them become your allies as well, to bring you into things, to make your work important. Yeah, I heard a podcast recently with a director that used to work in design at Apple. And he said that like Tim Cook used to talk about the concept of the Apple car wash. Like when you come into Apple, it was almost like you have to like forget everything that you've known about how you've worked in previous places. And you're going to learn how to do everything again at Apple. And then once you leave, you have to do the same thing because you're never going to work in an environment like Apple again. That's what design is, right? It's like, it's a completely different way of like operating, building, thinking, sweating details, caring about things that, you know, other people would say, why are you spending that much time on that?
The design world today loves to talk about taste, the perfect mood board, the Apple aesthetic, the Stripe look. But today's guest says maybe we've got it wrong. That taste as we practice today has become uniform and that sweating the details is far more important. Meet Atikh Bana, the co-founder and CEO of Actual, a financial operations platform helping businesses in 100 plus countries pay and get paid how they want, using stablecoins or fiat without forcing anyone to change their existing processes. Before Actual, he was a designer at Stripe and at Datadog, always choosing the unsexy problems but designing them with the highest craft. We start our conversation with his contrarian take. If taste is overrated, what should we be chasing instead? Why did you agree to come behind the ship?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's I think I really appreciate what you're doing with regards to like talking with more design and design founders. I think especially it's also refreshing to be in a space that's, you know, more representative of folks like us as opposed to I think who's usually the voices of design and media are often white. um,
Not
but it's you know. But that's not to say that some of the best designers are not coming from, you know, Africa and other places. And so I used to work at Stripe and I remember when they acquired a company called Paystack from Nigeria and like I was like everyone on this team is like better than the designers on Stripe product. You know, it was like and like it's like people don't know them, you know, and so it's like I think that's what I appreciated most about the format that you've created, but also then the network of people that you're bringing on and Hopefully, I'll be interesting as maybe some of the other ones, but if not, glad to have been on at least.
No, I'm sure. I'm sure. Fun story. Like that day, like the day I sent you that DM, I had been following you for a while. Actually, you've
Oh,
been one of the design founders in my radar, and when I finally figured out the types of people I wanted to speak to, in terms of like the format for the podcast, I've been trying to figure it out for a while. I hadn't fully defined it. A lot of people speak to founders when they want to do this sort of interviews or speak to like VCs, like they don't really go into like the makers and builders of the product, people that get their hands dirty. So when I started to articulate who I wanted on and why, it was people like you that came to mind. So that night I sent
that's so
about
nice.
10, 10 DMs to like people, like pitching them, oh, this is what I'm doing. This is why it's important. Some of the things that you've said, you people know of Paystack, people can hear of Paystack, but they don't know the people behind that. So the builders, the makers, they don't know their talent, but they've sort of interacted with their products. So their work you love, but you don't know their names, and that's just unfortunate. So yeah, that's
100%.
the kind of just the whole vibe.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I hope we have fun just talking.
yeah, same. I'm looking forward to it.
You said that taste and the way that we use it today is overrated. So the way that industry is saying like taste like is has put taste up and forward, it seems like design risks being uniform. So why have you come to form this opinion, and what's inspired that?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think that like if we just look at sort of the origins of taste, um yeah, I think that they can have forms of originality in that they come from spaces that are different from, where the taste is being created or coming to fruition, where it's like um sometimes it's like kind of cultural upbringings or certain, aesthetic things in architecture, nature, whatever else. Like everything kind of roots back into much more physical forms and things that feel kind of natural or feel intuitive in a lot of ways. Like I think the Nest is sort of like a good example of that. Like it took this form factor of like the original kind of thermometer and temperature device and sort of brought it
Yeah.
back in a more modern format. But it was also original in the sense that everything else looked so much more like something else. And then they kind of just like took a step back and looked at other spaces. But um, I think that in terms of what that looks like today and the way we think about taste in product design and in UI and UX, it's
Mm,
like it's looking like linear. It's looking like Stripe. It's looking like things that already exist. And I think to me that's not taste as much as that is kind of familiarity and kind of consistency, which I think has its place in design and is an important heuristic. But if we want to really think about taste, I think we should lean into the things that we're not looking at. And I think the people that do that the best are usually the ones end up feeling like they have taste. But I don't think it's fair to like associate taste with, how pixel perfect or, how great that gradient matches the one that's on, so and so's website. I think that the emulation speaks more to like your ability to like work well with craft and in Figma than it does like actually encompassing taste.
mm, yeah. So you also mentioned just like when how you see taste in like your day to day, in your day to day, right? So you live in New York. There's a lot of style, there's a lot of fashion in the area, just culturally. How does that influence you as a designer?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think what's interesting is like how so much of fashion is also very cyclical and like yeah, I remember now that I'm a little older, right? I remember like the 2000s and what fashion looked like then. And there was a point in time in New York where I noticed people were like dressing more like the 2000s and like the baggier jeans were coming back and the specific shoes and so on and so forth. But it almost was kind of like people were always like searching for this like nostalgic thing and I think that that's cool. But And I was kind of was like, why would I go back to the thing that I, used to wear or whatever? But I think at the same time, you start to like see elements of that woven into like more modern things as well. And I think that it's really cool to be able to like draw on some of the fashion like inspiration in that sense. I think that there's also just a ton of like architecture and smells and like I think that New York is just so vast in so many ways of like you're just exposed to like you could walk for 10 minutes and be visually stimulated in so many different ways that maybe you don't even realize have some kind of subconscious effect on how you may perceive or think about a design. But I think that's also really really cool. And I don't think that New York's the only place that can have that. I think, in fact, more places around the world would be better than New York because New York is just an amalgamation of all the melting pots of the world. Um,
Everywhere else. Mhm.
yeah, exactly. So yeah,
That's very, very interesting. When I did some digging and I found your Medium. Don't be scared. I found your Medium page. Basically, I was looking at your profile. I was like, oh, you have a lot of hair compared to like who I see now. So that's like a really old picture, like some years before.
oh
And I
yeah,
see that you described yourself as a designer, video producer, I think photographer and podcaster. Yes. So which was really interesting. A lot of people know you as a designer. You worked at Stripe, you worked at Datadog, and right now you're the CEO co-founder at Actual. So who is Atikh Bana of today? Like that the world don't know about. Who are you? How would you describe
yeah.
yourself?
Ooh, that's a deep one. I guess fundamentally, I think of myself in a few different pillars. I mean, I'm a Somali. So my family's from Somalia, so that's a real core kind of piece to my identity. I'm Muslim. That's my faith, which roots a lot of my decision making and just way of living. Um,
Mhm.
I'm a husband, which kind of roots my just day to day living and kind of my purpose and how I kind of operate and what I do and why. In some senses, I'm a son. I'm a father. Most recently, and so I think those are just kind of like real
Congrats.
key pieces. Thanks so much to my identity as well. But yeah, I mean, and in terms of how I spend my time kind of outside of those kind of foundational and really kind of key parts of my life, yeah, co-founder of Actual that I started with two of my closest friends, and excited that I get to work on a problem that I feel that we have a strong sense of founder market fit for and are able to bring um, you know, a great sense of product quality and experience to something that feels very missing for a lot of the world, and getting to serve people that are not just finance people in like the Western world, but it's a Ugandan coffee exporter or a coffee exporter out of like Kenya, or an aluminum exporter out of like Nigeria, or you know, textiles exporter from India. Like I think that's so cool that that's the type of kind of ICP that is for Actual, that we get to serve day to day.
Yeah. So you have this personal connection with the vision and what you're doing now. How does that compare to what you did before, which is like Stripe and all the other things? How did you come to this realization that you were going to, like when you were starting Actual, that you're going to be building for people that were more like you said, like your aunties and your uncles, people you could relate to?
Yeah, for sure. To be honest, I feel like I've always thought of design as a means to like an end. I think that it's a good skill set to have to apply to things that you care about, um, like programming, and other things. And I think that what I've gotten to do throughout my career is just refine that skill and that craft uh, over time. And I think I get to do that probably the fastest now, working, in this like startup environment. But um, yeah, I think that it's really helped shape that ability for me to build products, develop some taste in the process. But most importantly, I think applied that now to something that means a little bit more to me. I think that when we started
Mm.
Actual, we originally were building something completely different. It was actually like a social investing platform. So the idea was that you would invest alongside your
Like
like
public.
friends. Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But with crypto
Mm-hmm.
assets, and we did that
Oh,
for a little bit. We stopped because the market got really bearish, and people didn't seem that interested in what we were doing. It also seemed to have some like different like legal ramifications where people would deem governments, SEC, et cetera, would deem our product as like securities, and we just didn't want to go down that like rabbit hole.
that
But we
route.
also didn't feel
Mm-hmm.
like we were consumer builders, and so it was almost like if we could lean into something that we feel we knew a lot more about, could feel a lot more confidence building, and going deeper in, what would that be? And so. I don't think we set out to do this in such a way where we're like, wow, we can actually serve people that, yeah, look like my aunts and uncles and cousins. But just
Yeah.
hey, there's something that we did in this world of like traditional fiat currencies that maybe could also apply in crypto. And it seems like we've stumbled upon something much larger, which is really exciting.
Yeah. So did that change how you build? Like having this such a personal connection to what you're doing right now, does that mean that you're a lot more ruthless or like you're more patient? How does that tie into your approach?
Yeah, I guess it maybe, I don't want to say it throws out kind of all of the textbook processes and ways of working out of the window, but you kind of have to like bend what you know quite a bit. Like
Mm.
you write someone on LinkedIn, you send them a Calendly link. Like people are not doing that in certain places in the world. You got to ask for their WhatsApp and you have to call them. Get on a call with them. Um, you know, and like even just the way that you like ask questions, like you have to be very intentional about sort of the language that you're using, and that you're not, I don't know, asking things that don't necessarily make the most sense,
And
or
apply.
yeah, exactly. And so I think that's been another like exercise as well, where it's almost like you there's a cultural context and awareness, and even more empathy that you need to have that maybe you aren't usually having, I think, in some other contexts of building. Um, but I think that also makes the opportunity more rewarding in the sense that when you do figure it out, it's like, wow, like that actually worked. And so, yeah, I don't know. I guess like in a sense, it's almost like you're relearning how to design, and a lot of those frameworks and
How to
processes
build.
to sort of fit. Yeah, given that the user
Could
base
you
is so
give me a
global.
scenario where that happened and you had that moment to say, aha, this is this is different and I have to think about these things differently.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I remember some of the earliest like iterations of our invoicing product. We we noticed that we were getting a lot of usage just kind of around the world, like over 100 countries, like really quickly. And I remember we met this guy in Nigeria named Suleiman, and he runs like this really big kind of freelancer community. And we got connected with him through another guy that had used Actual. And we were like talking with him about how USDT is just so important in Nigeria, and like how being able to like hold that is like a better hedge against the naira because it trades at a higher rate than like the vanilla dollar. And it's like, whoa, like
Mhm.
that's a really interesting insight. And here we are kind of thinking about just like, oh, you use USDT, but it's also like a hedge, and like I think that was like a really interesting like unlock in that moment. But it's like, oh well, does everyone kind of want USDT? And then he's like, no, but when they hear about the benefits, like they actually go through the process of like figuring out like how to get it and hold it and trade it, and so on
Mm,
and so forth. And so it was interesting to see just like how you could tie that back to something so much more, to like getting to keep more of what you earn, and not having to jump through like some of these additional hoops that you normally do to getting paid, um, and kind of that uncovering that through just some of these conversations with people that we weren't interfacing with regularly, and kind of asking the right questions of like why this thing is so important, as opposed to just like go ahead and use it, stablecoins, how can we fix the invoicing product. It's like we dug into more of just like why are you using stablecoins in the first place, kind of thing.
Yeah. So how did you get in contact with the right people, right? So you needed to listen to people like Suleiman and other people like him, to figure out like you're going in the right directions and what to do next. So how did you
Mhm.
find the right people to speak to, given like your own context, right? So you live in New York, you're trying to do this thing. How did you work? How did you work that out?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's really, really hard. I think that there's a lot of, and the world is just so vast, and like there's so many directions that people can point you in that could be wrong, could be right. And so I think that we always try to like anchor on like just breadth in a lot of that early discovery, and like how many more people can we talk to try to like understand this opportunity. And it's like I remember one of the earliest things we did once we met with Suleiman was like, hey, can you just put out this thing that we're trying to do, which the idea at the time was like let people like pay you with fiat and then you receive USDT. And like I remember it getting a lot of traction, and we were like, oh, can we put a type form on there so people could fill it out and like we could like actually interview them. And like it was almost like our
Mm.
interesting way of filtering to try to like find people and like understand that pain point a little bit more. Then we tried some surveys to try to gain a sense of like volume and quantify that data a bit more as well. Um, but all in all, I think that really trying to see how you can find people that almost become your channel partners or your distribution into certain markets to try to help you like reach more of them, while you also still try to like find your own individual folks to learn from as well. But it's almost this world where design, research, discovery meets sales a little bit as well, where you kind of have to like learn how to reach these audiences as well. Where it's like you can't just go to like userinterviews.com and say, hey, give me 10 people, Nigeria that are, transacting in stablecoins. Like it's not going to work, you know.
Yeah. So there was a lot of footwork and sort of being in proximity with the people in the industry to get some clarity in the beginning.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that that was so important. And I think that work can never stop either. Like, I mean, we're continuing to do that right now in places like India and in Kenya, Ghana and South Africa, Brazil, Argentina. Like, we're doing it everywhere because there's so much that we don't know.
Yeah, so there's a lot of curiosity to drive you forth. You mentioned your co-founders and how you decided to work with them. I did some giving. One of them is called Issa, and the other one Muhammad. Well, Momo, I guess, is the first name I can pronounce, so I don't want to mess it up. But
Yeah.
yeah, what convinced you to start with these two people?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think part of it was like a little bit of divine timing. We met at Stripe. So Momo and I, um, we didn't know that we actually like were both Somali and working at Stripe. I saw on Clubhouse one day his profile, and it said that he was at Stripe, and I was like, this is interesting. So I ping him on Slack, and he's like, yeah, I'm Somali, and I'm like, wow, that's so cool. Because I'd never in my career ever worked with Somali persons. I just thought that was interesting,
Somalian.
and so yeah,
Mm.
and
Well, I
so
think I saw that tweet. Uh,
oh yeah,
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 post
I
one
had a
more
tweet
about
about
you, and I saw that. Yeah,
it.
yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, that whole story goes it just, we end up meeting in person and basically hang out the whole time. He's in New York. He later invites his friend Issa to hang out in the city, and like we just become really good friends, and at some point are like, let's spend our time doing more productive things, and started hacking on some stuff and eventually landed on this.
Yeah, so it was just like divine intervention. Like, let's just do this. You met at the right time and aligned at the right time as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And we all have complementary like skill sets as well. So like Momo's like a sales guy, product guy, and Issa's like technical software engineer, and I'm a designer. We're like, this is perfect.
Makes
Let's
sense.
do something. Yeah.
Dream team. Dream team.
Yeah.
Were there any like wild debates in the beginning? Or like wild periods, like when you guys are figuring out, okay, we want to do something more meaningful with our life. This is our life's work. What are the things that came to mind, popped up at the time?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we certainly were kind of like having to take some bets and like kind of imagine a reality that felt very like far-fetched. Um, like the idea of like stable coins as a way to like do payments globally in 2021, 2022, like it was like a big question mark. Like, why would you do that? Um, and so we certainly had a lot of debates of like, is this too early? Like, do we need to wait? Do we need to focus on another part of the problem? Do we need regulation first? But I'd
Mm,
say that we just tried to lean in on just customer conversation. So before we started Actual, we actually did like over 200 like conversations with finance people that worked in crypto, and that kind of helped guide the process a little bit, and that ultimately helped settle the debates or at least the question marks that we had around like whether or not we should pursue it.
yeah, 200 is wild. So that was
Yeah,
between the three of you. Wow.
that's right. Yeah.
Um, and that's a lot of that's I guess that's the part a lot of people just like skip over, just that discovery phase, because it's a lot of hard work.
Hmm.
People have a sense of what they think the user wants or what the market needs, and they say, okay, this is what I have in mind, and they just go ahead and do that. And then they probably have to backtrack and do the research and do the discovery at the time, like maybe in between before they sort of
Hmm.
go ahead. So it's interesting. Yeah. So I wanted us to do a quick instinct round. Is a game. No
Okay.
pressure, but just say I'm gonna say a sentence. You're gonna say the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Ready. Cool, 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 cool. Okay. So designers should be
Empathetic.
okay, you there's a little bit of delay, but I'm gonna take it. Okay,
Oh, I see.
so
You
the
want you
next
want
one,
instant. Okay.
instant, the first thing that comes to
Okay.
your mind.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So AI will never replace.
Design.
Okay, you should never raise money if.
You don't know why you're building what you're building.
Cool. Okay, so growth is best done by.
Founders organically.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, so that's the end of the round.
Okay.
There's no right or wrong answers, but that does something to spice up the conversation. Just back to building actual. When I first
Hmm.
found out about you and opened the website, actual website, try to set up my accounts right from the copy that I saw, the value proposition copy, get paid same day, the other things around like product showcase. I was really impressed by just like the direction and how clear what you guys were trying to do is. I think a lot of people, especially just early days, they have a problem articulating really clearly where they're going. So I can spend a ton of time on the website and I don't have a clear sense of what the product is and what I can get out of it as a user. So, what inspired the direction and like product strategy for you guys?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think that one of the things we realized early on, just in this world of like payments and crypto products, um, and et cetera, is that there's really this like breadth and depth. Like those are kind of the two avenues you can take when you're really like trying to like solve problems here. It's like you look at some of these like providers that offer things of like, oh, we have cards, we have multi-currency accounts, we've got invoicing, we've got this, we've got that. And it almost dilutes the message or the value prop or the problem framing, um, in that people are trying to look more like a Wise or a Revolut than they are like what they uniquely are trying to serve. Where it's like, again, anytime the benchmark or the parallel is like trying to be something else or like something else, it's never going to be memorable in the user's mind, and it's never really going to solve a pain point, at least as clearly as what user is telling you. And so, um, we chose to focus in specifically on the invoicing process. And, one of the biggest pain points in that is how is in the payment itself. And, whenever people do work, what do they want? Is they want to get paid, and so that's why we really chose to like lean into that value proposition, and obviously the question of like, well, how? And that's through sending the most flexible invoice on the planet. And so I think we really just tried to like hone in on something that we felt we could like own narratively, but also could like strike a chord and really resonate with the user base, um, and quickly help them associate like what it is that we offer and how and what problem it is that we solve. Whereas like you don't hear of Actual and think multi-currency accounts or get a USD account or get a card, get a wallet. You think get paid, and like that's a much better like frame and solution to something that you
Framing.
have as opposed to like yeah.
Yeah. So why did you decide to say, or why did the team decide to say most flexible invoice and not like the most smartest? What other adjective there is to say?
For sure, for sure. I mean, we almost shipped thoughtful, but that almost felt a little too airy. But
Too
the reason why we
abstract.
chose to like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but what we liked about
Mm-hmm.
flexible is that I think it probably what like helps us like articulate it most accurately, because the way actual works is that we allow you as the business sending an invoice to receive your payment to the specific destination that it is you want to receive it to, whether that's a specific wallet like your Binance account or MetaMask or Solana or Phantom, or if it's a specific bank account. Like we never like force you to hold the balance with us. We always route it directly where it is that you want it. But obviously, like the other side of that is your buyer able to pay in USDC or USDT? Is your buyer able to pay on that specific chain that you want? Is your buyer able to pay in your specific currency? Like, can they send you rupees? Can they send you naira? And in many cases, that's not the case. Like, that's not possible. And so we enable the other side to have that same level of like flexibility as well. And so it's kind of why we use that term. It's like the flexibility of your client being able to pay, and then the flexibility of you being able to receive as well.
Mm. That's cool. That's cool. That's cool. Because I think that question came to me when I was trying to describe it to myself. Like, what can I,
Yeah.
how can I introduce my friend to actual? What would I say? Right. So I started thinking. I think one of the things that came to my mind was smartest. So I was like, I wonder why the team chose flexible. But then this what you said now definitely makes sense. Were there other things that you guys spent your time debating on?
Ooh. Um, I mean, one thing I think is just like the state of stablecoins and crypto and how much that matters or doesn't matter. I think that, we like hear from a lot of these like, financial technology experts and, people building in the crypto space that say, like stablecoins are going to fade into the background. They're not going to matter. Um, but then we have users who have a specific stablecoin on a specific chain that they want to hold and spend. Um, and so I think that's something that we do debate. And like you have a lot of this regulation that's now coming out, like making the term have more of a positive like connotation, where like before it felt like crypto was what you think of when you think of a stablecoin. But now it's almost like we've got a whole nother narrative separate that has a much more positive meaning to it. Um, but I think that's one
True.
thing we debate. It's like what happens, right? Like, does it fade into the background? Do people not care about the stablecoin? Or do they? Um, I think that we kind of teeter totter, but it's going to be an interesting race to see like how that actually evolves.
Plays out. True, true,
Mm.
true. So I saw something somewhere, and I'm gonna read it out loud.
Yeah.
It's something I saw in a design economics innovation journal, and it's a quote by someone called Victor Papanek, one of the most notable designers in his era. So he says, indeed, the world seems to have implicitly recognized the value of design through its choices of products and services. However, although numerous studies show the value of design for companies, out of the entire roster of Fortune 500 companies, only 10 to 20 have chief design officers. So that's
Mm.
roughly about 2 to 4%. Right. So he says the full potential of design is yet to be recognized. Perhaps the fault lies within the design profession itself. It continues to
Mm,
say how many designers are capable of being a C-level executive at one of the world's largest companies. Perhaps the lack of senior execs is an indictment, yes, of our education. Do
mm.
you agree?
Ooh, that's a good take. I don't know if I agree if the onus of why design isn't kind of respected or held in that same level of position lies on the designers, or is a fault of the founders themselves not valuing it. I think that like sometimes you have folks that'll build something, in a particular way, be very sales driven, very product led, so on and so forth, and maybe forget about design and think that it's something that they can just like tack on later. Oh, we'll improve the UI UX. Like the moment I hear a founder talk in those terms, I'm like, okay, yeah, they don't care about design, nor do they value design. Like I feel like even just
Mm.
diminishing it down to just UI UX or UX UI, it's like I can tell that this is not, you don't understand what this is. Um, and so I think that it has to just be something so innate in how the company like functions and operates. I heard a podcast recently with a director that used to work in design at Apple, and he said that like Tim Cook used to talk about the concept of the Apple car wash. Like when you come into Apple, it was almost like you have to like forget everything that you've known about how you've worked at previous places, and you're gonna learn how to do everything again at Apple. And then once you leave, you have to do the
Mm.
same thing because you're never gonna work in an environment like Apple again.
Like
And it's
that
like,
is
yeah,
crazy. It's
yeah,
like going through a couch. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It makes so
Yeah.
much sense, and it's almost like that's what design is, right? It's like it's a completely different way of like operating, building, thinking, sweating details, caring about things that other people would say, why are you spending that much time on that? And what's the impact it has on the bottom line? Another thing I love is Patrick Collison, the founder of Stripe, talked about how if there was proof that design had no effect on the bottom line of a business, he would still invest the same amount in it. And like to me, that's what it is. It's like caring so much about the product experience, so much so that even if there's no like direct impact, you just care so much about how your users experience the thing. Like that's design DNA. That's caring about design. And if the people that are creating the thing don't think about design in that way, it'll never matter whether or not a design chief design officer or someone else is there.
Is there? Hmm.
Yeah.
That's that's interesting, to be
Yeah.
honest.
I mean, it's almost like if Amazon all of a sudden said, we're going to care a lot about design. I don't know how much of a difference that's going to make on Amazon right now or Google.
I mean, it depends. I would say it
Yeah.
depends. Well, largely to an extent, what you've said is, I agree with what you've said because like for instance, a company like Paystack that was acquired by Stripe, it was immediately clear why that happened and why it needed to happen outside of just like where they were as a business in terms of just their bottom line, the amount of market share value that they had at the time. There was also a merging of souls in some sense, right? So there was alignment in terms of style, in terms of how to run a company, the founders as well. So they could relate on that level, not just, okay,
Hmm.
yeah, your business is doing well in Africa, let's just acquire you, right? It wasn't as simple as, I'm sure it wasn't as simple as that. So yes, so when you say, because that is true, yes, it makes sense to things like that. When that acquisition happened within Stripe, were there, like you said, there were things that you said, oh, like, oh, this is cool. I've never met these people in my life, and they're doing like fantastic work. What are other things that you found surprising?
Um, I wouldn't say necessarily surprising, but I think it was almost like maybe inspiring or refreshing of just like, wow, like I really love some of these ways of thinking or ways of working. And And also just the fact that like you could be, a startup, not sort of Stripe scale, but still have that same level of craft and quality in what you do as well. It's like, I think that's another thing. It's like sometimes people think that just because of the size or, the life cycle or moment, like stage of a company, that they can't have that same level of intensity in design and craft and quality, but they certainly can. And like, I think that that was really good. I think it was a really inspiring moment for me as well, in seeing that Paystack was like that. And they had such a pretty robust like design function as well. And like, um, it's almost like these things. I can't remember like specific examples, but just like they really sweat the details on. I think it was like something like some like photography that they had on their website, and I was like, they actually did like a photo shoot just for this thing, and it presents really well. But wow, like they really went out of their way to like do that, and it's like it's always like the things that are just a little extra that I think really make the big difference. And in the moment, I bet there are people at companies that are like, "Why are we doing that?" But in the out, and then in the long run, it's like, I'm glad that we did.
Right?
Yeah,
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 true. A lot of people too are talking about this idea of founder mode, and ever since that Brian Chesky interview, that's actually when I first heard about the term. But apparently, Paul Graham was the originator of that concept, the idea of founder mode. As a design founder, what does that mean for you?
yeah, for sure. I think that there is a lot of micro decisions that are made, like with or without you at a company, and I think founder mode is, a little bit of this like choosing your battles, but choosing what you care about, because you can't completely care about everything. But I think founder mode is almost like I used to care a lot about this thing, and I'm going to still care a lot about this thing, even though I'm not focused on that thing as much anymore. Or if there's something that I feel very passionate about and its impact on the business, or even just its impact on the vision and how the company presents, I'm going to sweat that thing. And yeah, I think that that to me is like founder mode in a lot of ways. It's like putting your head into places where you were like not usually putting your head into as much anymore, or doesn't
Mm,
feel like it needs your input, but you're going to care anyways, and you're going to make a comment about it, or you're going to do something to change it. I think to me, that's founder mode. Um,
that's core. Yeah, as a design founder, like what has building a company opened your eyes to? What are the things that you found interesting?
yeah, I think that as a design founder, among other founders and among other teammates that are not designers, is that I don't think design is still like, it's not that I can just say like this thing is really important. We're gonna like put a lot of effort into like the design of XYZ. Like design still needs justification. Design still needs convincing. Design still needs storytelling. Um, and like I don't think that design gets to like operate like Steve Jobs. You know what I mean? It's like I don't think that just because I'm a designer, I get to say things and they just happen. It's like I still need to present, convince,
Rally,
justify. Yeah,
convince.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Like the same way
Buy-in.
that you do in
Mhm,
any, but oh, exactly, exactly. Like all of that is
mhm.
still exists even as a founder that is a designer. But I think that through like repeated attempts of doing that and building the trust in the team that like, hey, that decision actually had this impact, um, it starts to become more valued, and that starts to become part of the company lore and the company history and the company identity in a lot of ways as well. That we thought that way, or that we approached problems this way, or that we invested effort and cared about things in this way. Um, yeah.
Mm. So, what is your advice to people working in companies where they don't feel like design is valued as much? So
Mhm.
I asked this question because you talk about showing impact.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so kind of like where is designs like impact most felt, or kind of
Yeah, so the impact of certain design decision, or yes, like when you
Mm,
talk about impact, you meant it in that sense. So what is your advice to people that are working in teams and products where the design is not perceived as much of a value? What is
mm,
your advice to people operating in that space, designers operating in
yeah,
that space?
for sure, for sure. I feel like for a really long time, design needed to tie itself to business and business outcomes. And like that was something that you're taught is like, hey, show how design actually drives this important thing. Um, but I think that now we've almost kind of like flipped it a little bit where like design gets to just be what people feel and like how it presents to a user and how that in and of itself is like worth celebrating or worth caring about. But um, I think to sort of measure its impact, um,
Mm.
I think it's always going to feel like it needs to have some kind of like quantifiable justification to feel impact. But I think the more it just sees positive feedback from either users or online or you start to notice competitors doing things that are like what you have. It's like
Copying,
I
copying you.
yeah,
Hmm.
copying you. It's like I think there are so many like non-trivial ways, but almost like just like not easily measurable ways to like feel its impact. But I think at the end of the day, like I think the impact maybe doesn't matter as much as just the care. Like just to be in environments where people care about it is more important than I think trying to find a way to make it feel its impact. And then if in environments where you are struggling to do that, you have to find the people who care. I when I before I was at Datadog, I worked at a startup where I was the sole designer and in a very, very technical environment where no one cared about design. But there were a few people that did that had influence. And it was almost like you had to make them become your allies as well, to bring you into
Your friends.
things, to
Hmm.
make your work important. Yeah. And all that it wasn't about impact, but it was just about caring. So I think yeah, impact's going to be tough when
Yeah.
people don't care. Yeah.
So bring your friends closer. Bring your
Yeah.
allies closer. Find your
Yeah.
allies and bring them closer. Great,
Hmm.
great. All right. So just this idea of like design founding, I think a lot of people are saying designers should become founders. There should be more design founders. And how do you think that is possible in this like age of AI? What do you think people should start doing? Designers should start
Yeah,
doing.
for sure. I think designers have such a unique skill set in that the way we problem solve, the way that we work through things, the way that we iterate, the way that we think. Um, and I think that that's so invaluable. And I think now more than ever, it's become so easy to build things, right? Like you can vibe code your way through something. You can, I mean, ideas are cheap, and so because it's easier to build things now, you can produce a lot of ideas um, relatively quickly and cheaply. And so I think that's really unique. But at the same time, like who's historically been building? It's been engineers, and I think that we're finally having a moment where people are recognizing the power and the you know excellence of design in product, and um, I think it's a good time to capitalize on that from sort of like a YC perspective. Like I think they had like a call for startups. And one of them was like design founders, and I'm like, we're really having our
Yeah.
moment. Like this is so interesting.
This is
Um,
exactly.
yeah,
Mm.
and so it's like narratively we're hot. I think that from a product
True.
perspective, we're capable. And from a execution perspective, it's never been easier to move as fast as you can. Um, and so I think if you can err on like that velocity that is required to build things and build companies, um, and be able to like learn fast, fail fast, um, and apply the magic that is you being a designer to that, I think really great things can happen more than ever before.
What are the top three things potential design founders should be aware of?
Hmm, that's a good question. I think one is working with the least resource as possible to see the and trying to get as far as you can. Um, I just remember like me being a designer early on. I was like, oh, I need an engineer. I need this. I need that. I need money. I need, it's like, no, just you. What is it that you can do on your own now, like end to end, and like start there and really try to like make that get to the magic moment just on your own as much as you can.
Just on your own. Hmm.
Yeah, I think that that's a powerful skill because you'll have to learn a lot in the process. Um, but it also is like in the world that we live in today is that you can do that. I remember I once like heard about the founder of Hinge. He was a student at Harvard, I believe, and he learned Objective C to build Hinge. And so it was like
Yep.
he didn't wait around for someone to build the app for him or whatever else. It's like founder mode is also like insane self-sufficiency, and I think that that's a skill that you need to get better and better and better and better at. Like you're never waiting for someone to be the answer to your problem. You are always the answer. Um, and so I think the faster you can
Especially now.
exercise that muscle, yeah, better.
Especially now. Right.
Hmm.
So what part of the building actual came more easily versus others? Now we're talking about self-sufficiency and starting
Hmm.
with you. What did you lock in as your superpower? And then what wasn't?
Yeah, I think for me, what naturally comes easier is talking to users, uncovering pain points, and like making sense of like what they're sharing in a way that like can translate into business value propositions and understanding of pain points. So I think it's kind of like the discovery component of that. Um, I think the second obviously is just the building of products kind of end to end and bringing users into that, making it human, very human centered. But I think that those two things are much later in the process of like finding the right people to talk to, figuring out who they are, segmenting them further, um, making sure that you're asking the right questions that lead to things that you don't even know to be asking. And I think that a lot of that stuff kind of comes from a lack of a little bit of the industry knowledge or specific specificities, regulatory, regional understandings, context that we're kind of unaware of as well. Like one of the things that we do right now is we serve exporters, but like there's so much nuance to what being an exporter is. There's like letters of credit. There's like repatriation of funds and different types of accounts that they hold, and how goods ship. There's like advancements on fund on payment on goods shipped. Sometimes there's not escrow and all these other like
Mm,
layers that like you like I remember when I was building for developer tools, it was like I would use developer tools just to understand them so I could ask the right questions. And it's almost like you kind of have to like redo that in this world as well, where you're like that doesn't come as natural because you have to just like learn and understand these things to be able to ask the questions and be able to gain their trust. They won't talk to you if you don't sound like you know what you're talking about. And so there's almost a little bit of that too.
yeah. All right. So what kind of came to you the what was more difficult for you to grasp just in your early
Mm,
days for actual?
yeah, I think probably just figuring out like go to market and like the market part of product market fit. It's just so vast, and like I think the more specific you are about who you're serving and why, um, making them love you is hard, especially in a world where you talk about building a product for like so many different types of user groups. Um, that becomes really really important, because it's also hard to like stay so focused when there's so many people you could be talking to that could guide you in so many different directions. So it's almost like managing misdirection, um, maintaining focus, and knowing to say no as
Mm.
well.
So how have you come to sharpen this skill like over time?
Yeah, I think it's been a bit of, I wouldn't say I'm amazing at it yet, but I think it's been just having a really, really clear understanding of what it is that you're solving for who and why them right now. And maybe also kind of an anti list of who you're not serving and why you're not serving them and why it
Mm,
doesn't make sense as well. And I think that that ends up being a really strong kind of foundation to guide decisions. Um, because it's so easy to be drifting in so many different directions. Like people come to us all the time and they ask us like, "Oh, we love your invoicing product. Like, can you give us an API?" And it sounds cool because sometimes we get asks from like really big companies about this, but it's like, but should we like do that? Like, we get excited about
right
it,
now?
but it's like, no, no, we
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't. Why would we do that right now? Like, that's not the core product. That's not going to get us closer to our goals. I think that's the thing too, is like tying this back to like, what are your goals right now? And what are the specific things that are going to get you to those goals? Who are the specific users that are going to get you to those goals? So then it becomes much more of a linear path as opposed to like one where you're just kind of all over the place and not focusing on at all.
Yeah, my argument there is what if you have a goal, you have where you want your users to go, you have the direction
Mm,
you want them to go, but more and more you see that users aren't doing that, right? They aren't doing like they aren't following the paths that you want them to go. They aren't specifically in line with the vision, right? So are you what do
yeah.
you do then? Are you gonna say, okay, they are not my ICP or like I'm serving the
Mm,
wrong users, like or is it a question for you to go back to the drawing board and start over?
yeah, for sure. I think that I feel like the best businesses are built on aha moments, but aha moments just come naturally. And so it's like if users are doing something that you're not expecting them to do, if you lean into that pattern, like you find something that either like guides you to do something different or like completely like pivot and say, okay, this is not working at all. But I think almost it's making quick decisions from learnings and creating environments where you can learn fast, but at the same time, it's asking questions that help you better understand what it is that they were trying to do or wanting to do, or at the same time, kind of exploring different groups that maybe you could be solving problems for. But yeah, I think all in all, it's not going to be sometimes the thing that you think it is. Um, but knowing that is, I think, the $1 million question that can only come from a little bit of serendipity, but also, but I think most important is just like making sure you have a really tight loop to like learning from people.
Yeah. A lot of things I find happen to founders is or people that are starting stuff or building stuff is that there's this idea to hold on to your vision as tightly as possible because that helps with like vision and clarity and saying no, right? But how do you know? Like the more and more you hear from users, the more you hear from other people, um, and it seems like the vision that you have in mind isn't in line with the reality that you're
Mm,
getting. So what is it that at what point do you need to think say to yourself, you know what, let me rethink this. Let's put ego aside and listen.
yeah, I think as a founder, like there's a lot of places maybe where you should have ego, confidence, and incredible conviction. But I think that if users are telling you one thing that contradicts what you feel, this is probably the place where you need to feel the least ego and the least confidence. And it's hard, but the faster you are at acknowledging it when you're wrong and learning why you're wrong is ultimately better for you and for the business. But I get that it's difficult. Um, and I think that that's something that you're constantly going to come up as against the founder. I mean, it could just be a string of like calls with users this week that can make you feel that way. And the next week, it could be the total opposite where you're like, wait, no, we are right. You know, and so like your users will kind of make you go down that roller coaster yourself. But um, I think that still there is a little bit of like founder conviction and um, kind of subjective direction or intuition that is still very, very important.
Required.
But yeah, but to let that cloud any like clear evidence, I think is just doing yourself a disservice. Um, and I think that that's hard for founders to, including myself, accept. But um, that is the thing that matters the most. Um, is the ability to hear and be challenged.
Fair. What is the fastest way to make that distinction? Like, when
Mm,
you constantly go within this roller coaster of like, they just says, yes, they're aligned, and then the next week you're hearing something else. How do
hmm
you make the clear distinction that this is just at this point a distraction, and there are other
mm,
people who may feel this way, so you need to keep going?
yeah, I think it's two things. I think one is the insights can be very clearly validating, but the actions then need to follow. And if the actions don't follow, then ask questions about why they're not following. And if the answers tell you something else, then the insight was wrong. Whereas if the other
Mm,
side is the insights are telling you not to do something, then I mean, keep that in the back burner. And for the ones that are telling you, see if they at all loop back to the thing that the other person was telling you that was invalidating what you were doing. Um,
yeah.
I mean, really, what you're looking for is just clusters of information or themes, but people are always going to tell you things that could validate what it is that you're feeling. Or yes, oh my God, this would be a lifesaver for me. I would put this. This is going to be the only app that I use, or whatever else. And like they lie. They don't process any volume. They don't use it. They don't log in for a month. Um, and then
The
yeah,
reality of the things. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay, so let's quickly do another icebreaker. It's called Kiss, Marry, Kill.
Mm-hmm.
It's not what you think, but it's a really fun one. So basically,
Yeah,
I'm gonna list out three products, and you're gonna decide if you want to. Kiss is probably like you want to like work with them, like you want to work with it forever.
yeah,
Marry is like you want to work with them, but not as much, but you want to have it around. Kill is that is dead to you, right?
yeah. Okay,
So the
okay. I like
first
that.
one is lovable, casa, windsurf.
Ooh, I to be honest, I don't do a lot with these tools, but I think I'll go with Mary Lovable, um, Kiss Windsurf, and Kill Casa.
Mm, interesting. So Claude, ChatGPT, Perplexity.
Oof. I would marry ChatGPT. Um, you said Gemini was one?
Perplexity,
Oh,
ChatGPT, Claude.
Claude. Okay, I would kiss Claude and kill Perplexity.
That means marry ChatGPT.
Yeah, marry ChatGPT.
Okay, cool. All right, so Notion, Apple Notes, Google Docs.
Ooh. I would marry Apple Notes, kiss Google Docs, and kill Notion.
What? Everybody wants to kill Notion. What's happening? I use Notion every day. What's happening?
Yeah,
What's the thing with Notion? What's your thing with Notion?
you know what app I really loved was Dropbox Paper. I really loved that before. I feel like that
Wow,
was
you're
to
the
be what
second person
Notion
to say
is.
this. Actually,
Really? Yeah,
yeah.
I love the formatting. I love the fluidity of Notion. I think I just don't love the form factor. It's like it's hard to like navigate and search. It's so many different types of things that are like maybe a little too much for what I need. Whereas I like that it's in Google, it's like a doc, a spreadsheet, or a PowerPoint. Like I think those are primitives that I'm just so like akin to, so it's a little easier. And I just use docs. But like I love if I could have Google Docs that looked like Notion just as a standalone app, I think I would use that. Like that'd be
Yeah.
better for me.
Okay, so you didn't like okay, so you don't like the idea that they're just different forms, types of data collecting that you can do on Notion. I think that's what it is.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah. It
like
just feels.
Sheets,
Yeah,
PowerPoint, and notes in like one, and more things, to be honest.
yeah, yeah. And most often than not, I'm just using Sheets and Docs, but it feels. I just like. I think it maybe just the mental model for me is just so like ingrained that it's hard for me to like break. It's almost like people that used Arc versus like Google Chrome. Like it kind of feels like
Yeah.
that to me using Notion. It's like I like Arc, but I'm just so used to Google. I just want to stick to using Google. It's like it's harder for me to
For someone
break.
that Yeah, for someone
Yeah.
that uses, I use both. So
Okay.
my personal compute, like for my personal work, I use Arc, and then for work
Hmm.
work, I use like Chrome. So it's
Yeah.
not so much for me personally. It's not so much of a context switch. At least in the beginning,
Yeah.
I guess in the beginning it was, but right now it seems like he says, I think it's a mental thing. It's more so a mental
Yeah.
thing than a product thing.
Yeah.
All right,
Hmm.
cool. So there's another one. It's called ship it or scrap it. So I'm going to
Mm.
list a few things, and you're going to decide if we ship or if we scrap.
Okay.
So the first one is removing a legacy feature if 5% of the users love it. Ship or scrap.
Scrap.
So still like remove it. So yes, remove it.
Remove it. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So why?
I guess that it's probably carrying a lot of burden on the team and maintaining something that is not liked by 95% of the user base to me feels like why not figure out how to make a lot more
Cost.
people love this thing um, versus maintaining something that probably has a lot more debt and implications to improve.
All right. So default theme that's neither light nor dark mood. Sheep or scrap.
Ship.
Mm. Why?
I feel like the concept of light mode and dark mode, like at least for most products, doesn't really move the needle. I think that maybe developers care about it, or maybe like very like online people.
People.
But yeah, for the most part, I think that it's not really a make or break thing as long as the default is really clean and easy to navigate. The colors, and for the most
Mm.
part, I mean, most platforms now will even like auto do that for you at some level. Not that it's good, but like, you know,
Mm.
yeah.
Right. So third one, onboarding that drops you straight into the product with no explainer.
Ooh. I would say scrap. I normally love this concept, but depending on what it is that you have, um, like research shows that people are very like goal oriented, and the more you can like have this concept of like a checklist or like completing something, it hooks them more into the product, and it gives them more reason to like continue to come back and use it. If it feels like a blank canvas, you're never going to fill it. But if it feels like a blank canvas with a couple of prompts or things that you need to do, it's going to be helpful. Like one of the things that we did in our onboarding was showing you the invoice preview as you're onboarding. So you're telling us your company name, you're uploading your logo, tax ID, location, and
And
it's
it's getting
like,
filled real time.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, and it feels like now I have something connected
That
to
was
this
cool.
piece, and now yeah,
I want to get it done because my invoice is right there. Yeah, I saw that. It's
yeah.
really cool.
Oh,
And
sweet.
the mobile implementation too was really clean as well. I was really curious to see how it worked on mobile, so I tried to sign up my mobile.
Ooh,
So yeah, the last one is Easter eggs hidden in a finance dashboard.
ooh, ship.
Of course,
I
that's
love
that's
little
that was that
details.
was the that was a that's a trick question. Cool.
Yeah.
for you. Yeah, so that's it with our icebreakers. I wanted to go back to the time before actual. So you are at this sort of unsexy sort of like developer companies. So what keeps like at that point where you were at this sort of like building this kind of products, how did
Mhm.
you think about your role as a designer, and how did you make sure that you are doing making the right decisions for the company, the thing that you are building?
Mm, yeah, I think that historically, like those types of environments are ones where like design has very, very little care or you can feel its impact in the product or like um, yeah, it's just not as important. And so I think that I think first and foremost, it's sort of like it feels kind of like going into a sports team in a market that no one cares about, and you get to be a star player, and you think of it as the opportunity to like, I'm going to take this team to the championship. So it's almost a little bit of this like you're in an environment where no one cares, no one's watching, like you have the opportunity to really like drive impact. And I think that's really exciting because it's like, hey, the Lakers don't want me, the Knicks don't want me. All right, that's fine. I'm gonna play for these guys. I'm gonna show them I can still win
I'm
championships
gonna
too.
go
You know,
abroad.
so it's
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's almost a little bit of this like chip on your shoulder thing, but also the fact that like design transcends the offering itself, and like it can make anything better. And it's just a matter of making that happen.
Yeah. Which of these like products or companies taught you the most about design's role in spaces people don't think as design led?
Mm. I I want to say that like being a design team of one taught me a lot in like the early days, just because it taught me a lot of how to navigate making design have impact and making people care about design and effectively playing so many different roles of design. Whereas I think in a lot more of these
Mm,
structured environments, you play one very small piece, but then you get to benefit of like the success of all the other things, right? It's like I think one of the things that I struggle with a lot with designers from big companies is that when you present work that uses a very rigid design system, I don't think I get to sense how good of a designer you are because you're really good at
mm,
connecting Lego blocks. But I want to know if you can also build the Legos yourself. Um, and I think that in environments where there's very little defined, that tells me a lot more about your skill as a designer. Now, all that
than
to say, like, yeah, the other environments, though, are still very helpful in the sense that you get to be around a lot of really high quality things. But if you're not doing the intentional work of like understanding why they're so high quality and like how you arrive to a lot of those things, you're trying to build or challenge those
yeah.
components, or yeah, then it's kind of you're not going to learn a ton, I think.
Mm, fair. If you could go back to your Stripe days, are
Hmm.
there anything that you would change
Hmm.
about your time there?
Well, that's a good question. I don't think I would actually. I think I was very, very fortunate to like be in the position that I was at Stripe. Like I worked on a very unsexy product that no one cared about. I was a sole designer on it with like two other engineers, PM and an EM. And the irony was that originally for the role that I applied, it was like you're going to be a designer for a new product that no one's on. And I didn't get the role because they were like, we needed someone more senior to be the designer on this team. But then I ended up
Mm,
doing the exact same thing on another team. That team ended up becoming like the star because we were growing very fast. It ended up becoming like a really important product for Stripe. Whereas the other one, I don't even think we even hear about these days. Um,
mm.
and then I also just got to work with really, really great managers and teammates. And so I think I was really fortunate in that sense.
You
Um,
lucked out.
yeah, but I don't think there's anything I would change.
Mm. Okay, that makes sense. So where do you think you had the most fun working? Like you did
Ooh,
great work, great work, great people. Um, that was just the vibe.
yeah, I think Stripe was certainly that. But I mean, I can't not say actual. Like I think that that's probably like the most fun and the most like living out my dream type of environment as possible. So I like that it's rooted in experience from Stripe and other things, but that's what I get to do like every day now.
Yeah. So would you say actual is like your life's work, or something that you're focusing on for now?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly hope that it can be like my life's work. I think that there's a lot of opportunity and potential for it to become that. But at the same
Mm,
time, kind of going back to that founder's ego and understanding what works, now, and if it has to evolve, I think that that's another reality as well. It's like is actual, and what it is today completely different than what it eventually becomes. At which point, like I think that the pursuit of the uh, organization itself may be different than what it looks like today. Or
today.
maybe there's someone else better suited to help take this to the next phase, and I played the part that I played. Um, but I think it's my life's work to get it to the point that I have the most ability to get it to.
Mm, when did you guys decide that you know what we need to raise money? Let's get serious about this.
Yeah. I think we did that once we started to have a lot more of the like. I think once we hit kind of like that 50 mark in conversations where we're like, we have something here, and it feels really clear, and we need to like quit our jobs and like pursue this like full time.
Oh, so you quit your job along the way, not before. I thought you quit your job before. That was my
Yeah, yeah. It was
thinking.
it was along the way that we quit our jobs.
Hmm. So that's a big risk right there.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a big bet. It's a great product. Of course, I'm rooting for the team. I'm rooting for you guys. And like I'm looking at what you guys do next. What do you think that your next steps are? What should we look forward to?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're just most excited about seeing how we can help unlock business um, for a more borderless world, and target folks who maybe are not as targeted or thought about benefiting from something like this. So I think I was just most excited about being able to like do that and then be able to tell the stories of these businesses and their impact on the global economy, and how we can help enable what they do.
Yeah. Cool, 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 cool. What role do you think like the government has to play in terms of all the policies and the laws around stable coins? I see that
Mhm.
I haven't gotten into this as much as I should have, but I see that just like with the government of Trump and his administration, there's a lot of pro crypto ness right happening right now. So I'm
Mhm.
curious to like the role that you have to play to
Yeah, for
lobby and
sure.
get some things out of the way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we are certainly like open to like kind of sharing our perspective and what we think is helpful for businesses, but we're not going to let the government like get in the way of us like providing value to businesses around the world. And I think that's historically what we've seen is that, there are situations where regulation is an excuse. And then there are other cases where we have no other choice. And people are willing to do things because this becomes a better a chance at like improving their livelihood and so on and so forth. And so
Mm,
um, I think we try to lean in more of that second path than we do like waiting for someone else to, again, kind of coming back to that idea of a founder needing to, you know, take control of their own destiny. But like, we're not waiting around for regulation to make us relevant. We're going
come
to
round.
find a way,
Hmm.
yeah, with or without it kind of thing.
Yeah. Ooh, we've talked for over an hour actually. But the final question is, who is one person you want to see behind the ship? And I know you mentioned the design team at Paystack, but is there anyone specifically?
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, I feel like the designers at Yellow Card might be interesting as well. They like I've read some of the like articles and stuff that they've like put together, but I'm curious to hear about what it's like being there.
Doing that.
Hmm.
Fair, fair, fair. I should make a note of that. But yeah, thank you so much for coming behind the ship. I'm happy to have you. I hope you had fun. I tried to make it as
Yeah,
engaging as possible, but this was really fun for me. Enjoy
likewise.
the rest of your night. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Lota. You too.
Night. Bye.
Okay, take care.